Hi, I'm Kyle.
I'm Josh.
This is Two Guys, One Car.
Welcome to our car.
Dude, it starts with Two Guys, One Car. That's the name. It should start
It's
with
welcome to our car.
No, but it has to start with Two Guys, One Car because that's the name of the thing.
Just get in the back seat.
Right along with us.
Welcome back to Two Guys, One Car, a podcast designed with the purpose to encourage everyone to live rather than exist. This week we have Caleb Davenport, aka Salty Davenport, on the podcast. This was a very special episode for me personally, as I've been following and admiring Salty's work for years. I'm a true fan of everything he does, and to have the chance to connect and converse with him is something I'm truly grateful for. For those who don't know, Salty is a photographer slash videographer slash adventurer living in Western Australia. He's well known for his adventures, and he has built a personal brand around himself, which he shares with the world on YouTube and Instagram. Whether it's hiking, kayaking, full driving in his troopy, boating, fishing, spearfishing, you can be sure Salty is always down for an adventure. The guys cover an array of topics, everything from how Salty got started in photography, to how he almost fell into a glacier in Iceland, to how he and his partner Essa manage the time away from each other when he goes out on his adventures. Salty breaks down what it means to adventure, the importance of education when it comes to respectfully exploring new places, and how education about the history of a place and the wildlife will actually enhance your experience. One thing I will say is that what you see online is what you get. Salty is a very genuine, humble and curious man. He's extremely passionate about adventure and encourages everyone to have their own adventures in life, whether it's camping on salt lakes or exploring a new local area. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please send us and Salty a DM letting us know what you learned. I truly hope this inspires you to take action and begin planning your next adventure. Join us for this week's challenge. Love you all, and we will see you in the next one.
Dude, this is I sort of got hit with bit of like imposter syndrome this morning because I've been following you for years and have loved everything you've created over the years, and to like have you on our podcast is just like such a blessing. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Mate, I'm stoked to be here, boys, and it feels like I'm in a limo facing you two guys.
Yeah, I wanted to open up with in your Instagram bio for the longest time you had where you want to be, and I'd love to know kind of the breakdown with your mindset around that, how you've sort of created this life for yourself where you truly are where everyone else wants to be, and why you think that you've created that for yourself and why so many people don't have that for themselves.
Yeah, look, it started off for me with, in short, firstly, it's just all about going on these epic adventures. For me, wanting to test myself physically, mentally, to force myself to learn about these areas, where I'm going, the history, the people, the traditional mob from the area, the ways they went about things, how, it still blows my mind how they've survived in this country for so long, in some of the, super remote kind of Pilbara desert parts is wild. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of take people on a journey with me as I kind of discover this different parts of this beautiful country myself. And, so much of it is station country these days that it's hard to get access to these really, really remote locations without following a road that's already been trodden. So, there's definitely a challenge in getting where I want to go to create these videos and photos and try and inspire people. But it's all part of it. It's not meant to be easy. And so, the whole where you'd rather be, a lot of the times it's a massive effort to get to these locations, but, everyone looks at them and goes, of course I'd want to be there. But they don't realise what's around and, the midday flies and the heat and everything else. They see the sunrise, sunset. So
They don't see the reality of the journey to get there as well. The years of training, the like dialing in your gear, walking with that gear, or as you quite often do, like kayaking rivers and stuff. And yeah, it's so true. People often get lost in the highlight life, but don't want the reality of it. And I think that's what separates you from most other people is you're willing to endure like difficult times and difficult situations to get to the location, to get the shot and have the experience. And you said for you, a lot of it is a mental journey that you like to go on and learn about yourself. Do you want to elaborate on that a bit more? And if you have any experiences that you want to share?
Well, yeah, the mental journey can be, as simple as like, oh, this adventure I've planned is going to be a massive effort, and do I really want to go on it right now? Or do I want to leave the dogs or the missus or sacrifice, a job here and there? It can be as simple as those kind of mental barriers. But at the same time, you never really know what's ahead of you, what is going to unfold, what the terrain's really going to be like, how tough it's actually going to be on yourself or, your mode of transport, whether that's car or boat or kayak, whatever it is, or just on feet. Yeah. So it's definitely, there's all sorts of challenges, but for me, sometimes it's the hardest part is just leaving home and making it happen. Despite how epic the journey looks, sometimes you just, maybe you're not ready. But yeah, once you're on the road, all you've ever looked at is satellite maps of these locations, and they're normally pretty average quality. So you really don't know how tough it's going to be, how many pinstripes you're going to get on your car just by trying to get to this incredible location, or, like the Murchison kayak. It all looked good from the river, from the satellite, but once you're on the river, you're just like, I was like, where's the water? Jesus, like, what am I doing? But I'm definitely one to try and live by that, like finish what you start as best you can, to avoid creating that that comfortability or that pattern of, like you'll be fine, I'll just pull out here. You definitely try and see things through, which is another challenge in itself.
Why do you think that you're able to, how do you think you've developed the ability to actually do that? Like, where do you think that comes from, being able to persevere? Because I think with your, like most of your videos, and I love the YouTube stuff you've done with you actually hiking on foot. It's so beautiful. And to your point earlier, talking about like all the midday flies and like you only see the sunset and sunrise, like you do probably endure some challenges that we don't actually see on camera. So what about you makes you like endure those challenges and keep pushing forward?
It's a good question. I don't know. There's definitely a stubbornness to it all, which I think helps in that respect. But just knowing how good certain places can be at certain times of day, or the feeling of knowing, I've got 10 or 12 hours sitting under this desert sun until this place is just going to be, one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And it might just be a salt lake, and I'm sitting at the edge of a salt lake and, it's 40 degrees. I can't even walk on the salt lake barefoot because, it's like 60, 70 degrees on the surface. So there's really not much you can do, have a couple of beers and wait for, or listen to a podcast and wait for, the sun to go down. And it's, I find the desert's generally incredible from, 4:30 in the morning till 7 and then 5:30 till 7. Everything else in between is it can be tough, but I think there's a beauty in the silence out there and the remoteness, and just being able to sit and, not be just sitting on your phone, or I don't know, just be happily still where you are with no distractions is, I don't know, there's something pretty special about that, especially in today's fast-paced world.
Definitely worth pursuing through all the hard stuff for that just little nugget of gold at the end.
100%, yeah. And I think that's why I do it. Or, hiking salt lakes. It's tough, but you're going to get to a spot where maybe no one's ever been because no one's stupid enough but you're going to see that rainbow, so to speak, at the end of the day, and just go, oh my gosh, this was worth it.
And it's definitely a skill to be comfortable alone in your own skin and comfortable with your thoughts. And for most people, they're not that comfortable with it. And I think COVID was sort of the first time in many people's lives where they were forced to be alone with their thoughts and in their own houses, in their own time. For you, how have you developed the skill to be comfortable with yourself? And what do you think almost the key to your success is in that realm of life?
Well, one of my first trips, big trips, solo. Yeah, it was actually driving. My mate was moving over to Sydney, and he was, umming and ahhing. We were just out of university. He was umming and ahhing about putting his car on the train because it was going to cost, $800 or $900, whatever, and plus whatever other fees he had to pay. And I just said to him, I was like, mate, I've got a week off. Like, I'll just drive it over for you. And I didn't really know what I was doing, so I didn't know which way to go. I'd never looked at how to cross Australia. So, it was just jumped in his Toyota Camry and he flew over there. And I just chucked a swag in and pretty much ate servo food and, just drove across Australia and just parked on the side of the road wherever I could. And for me, that journey definitely kick-started something. I've always had that desire to just go remote. I was born on a farm, so like getting remote and big blue skies it's deep in the blood. But that journey was, I don't know, it kind of opened the doors for me to go, hold on, what else is out here? Where else can I get to? Where else can I camp? What car do I need to go forward driving and all this stuff? So it was pretty cool. But to tell you the truth, from, birth up until probably about not long after that point, I was always scared of the thought of aliens. And so going remote and, just having complete silence and no one else around, and for the first time, I was out there just going, shit, it's pretty quiet out here. What was that noise? Like, E.T. did something to me from early days. So, that definitely opened doors. But that was an early fear I had to conquer, funnily enough, of being alone. Didn't care about other people or, weird people roaming through the night, like Wolf Creek style. For me, it was like aliens.
Wow, that's so funny. Yeah, because if I was going to do that, I'd be shitting my pants. It would just be Wolf Creek replaying in my head. That would be what would be going on with me. No aliens.
Yeah, but they're as it went on, and just every trip after that was solo trips, and got myself a Navara and an old Navara off my girlfriend's dad, and that completely opened the doors to just seeing where I could get to, and doing little trips by myself, and same thing, conquering those fears, which didn't take too long. And after that, it was floodgates opened, and and it was all right. Let's see where we can take this.
So at that, after, just a follow up to that, I guess, is, do you feel like you enjoy adventures more when you're solo, or do you feel like you enjoy them more when you accompany with someone?
They're so different. There's an attraction to both versions of travel. With experiences are best shared. The quote, what was it?
Happiness is best when shared.
Into the wild. So I fully agree with that, but then you miss out on so many moments as well that you'd have within yourself or just surrounding you. You bear witness to things that you otherwise wouldn't, because you'd be talking to someone, or you'd be in convo or walking off somewhere. So there's a beauty in both, and there's an attraction for me in both. Going solo, there's something pretty special about it. but in a way, that's kind of why I had to document the journeys, is because no one would ever know or see what I'm seeing. So, but then when I'm with someone, it's awesome. It's awesome because, you're both experiencing what I would solo, but like, I don't know. I love both versions, but there's something pretty special about going solo, especially when you're pushing limits, because it's all you. You're not relying on anyone. They're not relying on you. You're not waiting for anyone, vice versa. It's just like, I got myself into this. I have to get myself out.
Definitely. The way, in my experiences, the way I would describe solo versus with people is solo is much more kind of development-y. I think for me, solo trips, I learn more about myself. I learn more about the world. And when I'm with friends, it is a lot more happy, lighthearted. And I think I can just enjoy the simplicity of it. But solo, I find I just dive a lot deeper into things. And it's just sort of the nature of whatever the event is that I'm doing, and being alone. As you said, I think there's so many pros to having both experiences. I think just staying down one avenue, like, you're going to miss out on what it could be on the other side. But yeah, solo trips they're powerful, and I think I would love to see more people do solo trips, because knowing what I get out of it, knowing what you get out of it, they're so important and so beautiful, and it would be amazing to see people kind of branch out into that solo realm.
100%, mate. I've got a few mates that I would love to just push them out and say, go and do something for yourself by yourself, because there's some of them that just can't do anything without making sure there's 3 or 4 people around them, and it's unfortunate, but not everyone is willing and comfortable, like you said, to be alone and to kind of go down that avenue and see what's there, see what they'll discover by themselves, in a landscape perspective, or within themselves.
And it is super interesting as well, because I often will ask people, like, when is the last time you've spent 24 hours or more alone and like not seeing another human? And for most people I ask that to, they can never give me a time, or it's been like 10, 20, 30 years, which is super fascinating. I think it shows just how we're really made for connection, but it also shows how many people just are so afraid of being alone.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. It's but there is an audience out there that I've found that I didn't know existed, that follow along on my journeys and live vicariously through it. And some people say, they'll message me and just say, I love what you're doing, mate. I could never do it myself, but it's so inspiring to watch. It might help me branch out a little bit, but I'll never be driving out of the middle of the desert and doing that. But I might take the dirt road that I wouldn't otherwise have done. So there's other people that are just through and through like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to go there next. Thanks so much. And I don't really give away locations, but I just talk about an area and let people kind of discover. And that's that way, I'm not paving a path to say, hey, go here, this is how you get there. I want people to still be an adventure, and for them to go, oh, well, he's in this area, but where? And let's try and find out where he is. That's an adventure in itself. Get on your maps, have a look around, and then explore ways of getting to areas. Or they might end up in some incredible spot that I looked past or I didn't see. So there's the inspiration for people that definitely won't do it, but love to watch it. And then there's others that are like, this is great. Like, I never even thought to, cast my eyes over that part of Australia.
Which is really beautiful that you do that in the way that you do, because as you said, you're allowing people to craft their own adventure and live out their own adventure. And quite often if you give away like photos, maps, like all the data, people begin to create like a really strong expectation of what it's going to be like to get to this place. And quite often, more than not, it won't live up to the expectation they've seen through social media or the videos or whatever it is. And by the way you do it is you leave this mystery and this sense of adventure in it. And obviously all the places you go to are like beautiful, but you're not selling a spot saying this is what it's going to be like, this is how awesome it is here. It's this was my adventure, like go make your own.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had some people message me and say like, oh, we found one of the spots you went to, or others where they're like, hey, like I got my young kid, I've been having a tough trot, and got my young kid, and we went out and found a salt lake and went out and camped in the middle of it, and it was the best thing I've ever done. And I don't know why I had a desire to camp on salt lakes, but once I did, I was like, this is untapped, incredible camping country. And, there's a silence and a beauty out there that you don't see anywhere else, as long as the salt lake's dry and it's not slushy and you're not walking through mud. But, I've had quite a few people message me along those lines and just say it was so cool because I was able to, look back within myself and find silence and just enjoy being present in that moment because of the vastness of it. Just no distractions whatsoever.
Do you think that would be your overall goal, is to show people what adventures they can make for themselves? Do you feel like it's that, or is it more so to show, I guess, your own adventures, like to just, I guess, have a video journal?
I think at the moment it's definitely steering towards trying to inspire people and probably trying to inspire people to go out on these adventures, but educate themselves on where they are, learn about the history, or, pick up a book and try and learn about the bush tucker in the area, add something to the dinner you're making from a plant nearby, rather than bringing everything wrapped in plastic from Coles and chucking it on the fire, filling up a bin bag and then heading home. Just to go for a walk or take a hand line or a fishing rod and, try and pull something from every bit of landscape around you. But at the same time, learn about the history, who roamed those lands for thousands of years, what mob was it? What dialect did they speak? You can go as deep as you want, but it's more, it's definitely, for me, it's more about taking the time to learn about where you are rather than just, going out with a couple of cars, pulling up at a camp spot, getting pissed, lighting a fire, head home the next day, which is, obviously very common. And a lot of people get a lot of joy out of it and still get to go camping, which is great. But, it kind of leaves, if people knew more about areas and locations where they are, they wouldn't be as trashed as a lot of camp spots end up being.
Definitely, because it gives you so much more gratitude for the place you're in when you understand the origins of it. And with that gratitude comes a sense of responsibility, which, as you said, so many people don't have. And that is such a huge issue we have in Australia with campers and four drivers just trashing places, national parks getting closed down because of it, which then stops anyone from entering, which sucks because you have a lot of people that are respectful, and I would say most of the people are and want to enjoy it, but it's just that couple of percent that don't.
Yeah, there's always and that'll forever be an issue, the lowest common denominator, just ruining it for everyone. But, if we continue to push this education, there's got to be a way where things can be kind of twisted, a mindset can be twisted, or just altered slightly, that then brings that person or that group of people to go, hey, come on, like, what are we doing,
Yeah, I guess through, just education, like through people like yourself, anyone else. Like I know Scotty's Gone Walkabouts, like based in Sydney. Yeah. So like people like Scotty, yourself, like I think even me, like being a hiker as well, or like someone who enjoys hiking, like I would go out to trails and, you just read all trails. You're like, oh, look, this is sick. This looks like it has a good view, and you go out there and call yourself a hiker. But yeah, I would also, like, even for someone who already does it, want to inform myself a little bit more. Because again, I think it adds that sort of bit more value to your time out there instead of just going out there and just looking at some views, for sure. But I think the way forward from what you're saying is definitely just education. Like if everyone's opinion was formulated around like what their actual, like what they didn't just say don't trash it for no reason. It's like actually don't trash it because of this history that laid there before you trashed it almost.
100%, mate. And there's just even just knowing the bush and the species and what's edible around you, I think it's so epic, to be able to walk through the bush. I can't say I can do it, but I know in certain parts I'm like, all right, I know that's edible and I can eat that and that. And, it's just education on that and learning in that respect is, I don't know, it's something we've definitely lost. Well, I don't think whitefellas ever really had it. Obviously, definitely not to the knowledge of the Indigenous and traditional owners. But, there's something pretty special about being able to walk through the bush and, treat it like a pantry. And that's definitely where I want to push things, because I've got a real love for it and a desire to be able to be self-sustainable in some areas. And, obviously going out to a salt lake, it's a whole different story. Like bring the food because, you're not going to get much out there.
For sure.
Get a bit of salt, rub it on your lamb roast or something, but that'll be it.
Where does the desire come from to be self-sufficient in that sense?
I'm not really sure, but I grew up always watching Bush Tucker Man, Les Hiddens, and that guy's a bloody legend. And he was learning from Indigenous mob all through the Kimberley and different parts of Australia to basically all for research, to write down what it is, to take photos of these different species that he's learnt and how to prepare and eat that food, that bush tucker, and then pass that on to the Australian Army so they knew if they were ever up there. You've got survival experts that are able to, be within these platoons and stuff, and if they're ever stranded, then they're generally going to be okay, or they're going to be able to last longer. And so for him, it was all research, that turned into a television show, and I think it inspired a lot of people. I've got a lot of mates that, that was just the bee's knees. Hey, the guys are amazing to be able to go out and do that, and that, I think that definitely played a big part in inspiring me to also want to go, okay, so where am I? What's around me? Like flick through a little bush tucker book and try and work out what it is and what's in season and what can't I eat right now, and what needs preparation. There's so much to it. It's like it's kind of like a chef being thrown into a kitchen that he doesn't know the ingredients for, but he's got to make something. So there's you got to learn quick. The difference is out in the bush that you eat the wrong thing, you can be in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's kind of a beauty in the risk of it as well.
Definitely. And for you as well, like I know you do a lot of fishing and spearfishing, and I'm someone that I used to spearfish a few years ago, but I haven't done it for ages. But like, there's nothing better than eating food that you've caught, especially when you work for it. I think there is a level of having the education and then picking the berry. But when you're physically like building up a breath hold, diving down, hunting and capturing a fish and then taking it through the whole process to then cooking it and eating it, there is something about that will beat any meal you eat in a restaurant.
100%, mate. It's always tastes better. if you capture it yourself, unless you really stuff it up, but or overcook the abalone or something. But there's something very, very primal and a romantic, I guess, side to things when it comes to diving or fishing or anything like that, where you have to work out what's below the ocean. Is it good ground, say if you're fishing? Is it the right depth for the fish you're after, or for getting crays or anything like that? And then be able to hold your breath if you're diving, go down, search the caves or whatever, and then finally find the fish or the crayfish the lobster that you're after. And there's I think that's definitely, for me, the reason why I do it, is that start to finish process. And not just buying bulk from the store. Don't get me wrong, we still buy like salmon and stuff because we just don't have it. Here you get salmon along the coastline, but it's definitely not Tassie salmon.
Yeah.
But if there's an opportunity to go out and catch your own food or source your own food, then why wouldn't you? In my eyes.
100%. And for you, like you are very drawn to the more, I guess, natural way of living, a more organic, primal, sort of basic way. How do you integrate that into your sort of day-to-day modern civilized lifestyle?
It's tough. You kind of have to switch off to it at times. If I'm forever just dreaming about being out in the bush, I'm not going to get anything done back in the city. And I don't know, the way I kind of get through it is, if I have a spare moment, jump online and do a bit of research of, where I can go, what the next trip is, start learning about the area. But in terms of day-to-day life in town, I don't know, mate. It's just, I just try and get by until the next trip.
You, on that, I guess, have you ever considered or ever experienced any injuries where you haven't been able to go out and live that lifestyle? Because that's something I think about a lot, where for me personally, I draw a lot of joy and happiness from being outdoors and being physical with my body. But to know that at any given time, something could happen where my accessibility to these places could drastically be reduced, I do often question how I would be if that were to happen.
Yeah, so if I all of a sudden wasn't able to get out.
So like you get hit by a car and now you're a paraplegic, or anything like that.
Yeah, well, in that extreme kind of, I don't know, in that extreme kind of circumstance, then I don't know how I'd go about it. It would definitely just be, your adventures would all of a sudden become a mental journey and a journey within. But, in terms of like the risk of spraining an ankle or hurting yourself to go out on a big mission you've been planning, I've been fortunate where that hasn't happened to me. Sure, I've, sustained injuries while I'm out there, but nothing that's stopped me from, nothing that's more than surface injury that stop you from, continuing on the adventure. But I do know that there's a lot of people out there that, it does get taken away from, and all of a sudden, you're back to square one, and they're kind of stripped bare of those adventures. So for me, it's just trying to be calculated in what I do, which is tough because I'm very spontaneous in these adventures. Some days I'll see a photo of somewhere and just be like, okay, I want to go do that. Or, there's a lot of water up north. Like I want to see how far inland I can start with a kayak and get to the ocean. And a week later I'm doing it. So sometimes there's little to no planning time and prep time, which is definitely going to involve in, it will end up being greater risk, but the reward's always there for these adventures.
And were you very intentional with your career choice in that, where like you're a videographer, photographer, which obviously really plays well into your lifestyle that you like to live? So were you quite intentional? Did that sort of just fall into your lap? How did that sort of come about?
It's been quite a journey. So it started off, my dad used to take photos when I was younger, like just on the 35mm film camera. And I was always kind of curious as to, how it all worked and how the photo became, a physical image. And you go and drop it down and get the 1 hour kind of developing thing from your local chemist. And I can't remember who it was that gave me a camera, but they gave me a small little point and shoot 2 megapixel, which sounds crazy now, 2 megapixel digital camera. And I was just always out shooting stuff, and that kind of slowly transitioned into Canon, I think it was a 40D. And I really wanted to capture myself and my mates surfing. So, I'd get a long lens and just shoot some stuff from the shore. And then before I knew it, I was like, I want to get in the water. I can buy a water housing. I didn't know I can buy a water housing. So get a water housing sent over. And then, we started pushing ourselves to go on these trips and capturing, us surfing, just to kind of put a timestamp on those years and where we went and what we did. And kind of continued that for a while. But then I went to university and studied photography and film broadcast. And somewhere in that 3-year degree, someone said that, once you finish your degree, within a year you can get a J1 visa for overseas, for in the US. I was like, oh, cool. So, I can go live overseas for a year without, getting kicked out after 3 months. So I was like, oh, why not? I kind of just pulled the pin on all the surfing and adventures, and went over there and shot fashion in New York for a year, which was just completely out of the blue, and had the best time over there. But that whole time I was kind of longing for these adventures and to get back with my mates and head up north and go surfing. And, I didn't know how I could monetize it or create a living from it. It was just, you work your labouring job or whatever it was, and then, save up to go on these big missions. And we'd go up the coast and go surfing for a month and just camp in the desert and, just eat tin food and didn't have money for beers or anything like that. And then one trip I was like, oh, maybe I can hit up a beer company and just see if they'll give us some beers. And, I'd never really reached out to anyone before. So did that, and it was Corona. And they were like, yeah, mate, we'll give you a couple of cartons. And so the next time we went up, all the boys were just like, yes, this is the best. We're all, uni students and stuff. So we're so broke. It was down to all right, fuel's $44.58, so we had to split it up to the cent mark, where you still ask your mates for fuel money. But it wasn't until that was kind of the start of, all right, maybe I can somehow get companies to send us stuff, not necessarily pay me, but go, okay, well, there might be some stuff for the adventure we need, and they might send it to us if I ask them. It's super early days of Instagram. And then I found myself over east on I drove over from Perth to Sydney to see my missus. I said, I'll come over and I'll meet you over there. So I drove this car that I just bought off her dad. She flew over for work. I drove over there and I was like, I'll spend a week with you. And then I got over there and I was like having such a great time. She flew home and I had some mates over there. I was like, I don't really want to go home just yet. And surfing and hanging out over there. And, then there was a bit of tension between me and the missus, and she's like, well, are we together or are you going to stay in Sydney? And I was like, shit, all right, we're going to make a decision here. So I flew home to, convince her. I'm like, we're still together, but how about you fly back over in like a week or something and we drive back to Perth together and do this like big mission? And she's like, yeah, but you got no money. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'll work it out. Didn't have money for fuel, definitely not to drive across Australia. So anyway, she flew back over in a week's time. And in that week, I just hustled so hard. I walked around to like different health food stores and I Googled everything like camping equipment and booze and shoes and everything under the sun I could think of. I just like hit everyone up on Instagram. And for a lot of these companies, they probably hadn't really been hit up before. It's a different story today where they probably get 30 direct messages a day people asking for stuff. So, I ended up with 20 pairs of volleys. Dunlop Volley sponsored the trip and gave us all these shoes to shoot.
What? 20? Oh my God.
Yeah, no joke.
What'd you do with 20 pairs of volleys?
Yeah, they lasted me like 10 years. Like, not 10 years because it's still, haven't been that long, but this was 8 years ago. And they gave us 20 pairs of volleys. So we ended up giving them to mates and stuff when we finally got back to Perth. Yeah. And they gave us money, which was awesome. So I was like, all right, I can pay for fuel. I hit up Remedy Kombucha, which they were just in their infancy at the time.
Whoa.
And so she gave us a little bit of money, but she also sent me like 12 cases of kombucha. And I only had a little esky in the back of the car. I didn't have a fridge or anything. Right, so I'm like, all right, now I've got to work out how to get ice in the middle of the desert to drive across Australia to keep these things cold. So anyway, we had 20 pairs of volleys, 12 cases of kombucha.
As you do.
And then I hit up Austrail. And they were like, let us know what you want. Like, yeah, we'll make it work. And so 2 days later, a truck rocked up delivering all my Austrail gear, like cookers, an awning, 2 swags, all your utensils, everything Austrail.
Wow.
And gave us a budget as well. And I was like, this is it. Like, I can do this. I'm going to keep this train going. And, we drove across Australia and shot, along the way, kept things as organically as we could. And Essa, my girlfriend, ended up becoming the face of kombucha for that year. And she was from the photos we took, she was on fridges, like on the side of, in stores and all over their marketing. And it was hilarious. And then same with Volley. And then Austrail were on the front of the magazines that they send out to stores and stuff. And it was a trip that was never going to happen if, shit didn't start to get a bit of tension between me and the missus. So it kind of came to a point where I had to make it work or it might not work. And that's where it all began.
That's wild.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Because so many people, when sort of faced with that, would just like, oh, it's too hard. It's not going to work out, call it quits there. But for you, it was just like, the answer's no, unless if I never ask, the answer's going to be no. So I might as well ask. And it clearly worked out in your favor. And from there, I also have to think that that's probably like the best way you could enter that sort of phase.
Oh, yeah.
You just like, ask, get all this crazy stuff within a week. You're like, what the heck? This is easy. So was there any point along the journey where you hit that roadblock where it was sort of, oh, it isn't as easy as just sending a message and everything gets delivered to me?
Yeah, definitely. I've been fortunate in that, well, I've definitely worked hard for it. I'm not going to lie there, but like, I've been fortunate that, my photography and videography background is its own selling point. And the way I capture things definitely helps companies make a decision to be on board or not. I'm not going out and just taking stuff on my phone. So it has been, it's a lot of like work in the background, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails, trying to convince these companies that, you're the right fit for them. And, there's definitely times where it doesn't work. And those early days, after that, once I got back to Perth, I was on Instagram. I would send probably no less than 80 to 100 DMs a day, hitting up companies that I wanted to work with or that I thought I could work with, or, whether that was on adventures or it was to photograph, a model in Perth and get something on them. But so, if I was to send 80 DMs or let's say 100 DMs, back then I'd probably get 8 responses. All the rest wouldn't respond, and you get about 4 no's, 2 maybes, and generally you get about 2, let's do it, let's give it a go. So it was a lot of work, and a lot of no's and a lot of no, it's just not going to happen. And that was a big challenge to overcome, because you could easily become disheartened by that and just go, well, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. This isn't going to work. But all of a sudden you get these companies that do believe in you and kind of bring that light back in and go, all right, sweet. And it's like when you're playing golf. If you play golf, you have the most horrible round. On the very last hole, you do the best drive and the best putt of your whole day, and you're like, all right, I'll play golf again. But until then, you're like, why am I doing this? This sucks.
How do you think you desensitized yourself to the no's?
Just because there were so many no's.
Just the sheer quantity of them.
Yeah. You just learn to accept it. No, you just, I just knew this is what I wanted to do.
Okay. Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to go back to landscaping. I'd had enough. I'd done it for years and years. So I was like, this is my avenue out. And if I pull a pin, or if I, take whatever they're saying personally, this isn't going to work. I need thicker skin, and thicker skin means I'm going to be able to persist. And because I'm sure, I was always telling myself there must be hundreds of other people doing the same thing, but you need to outlast them, because they'll continue to drop off, and new people, same with photography. Yes. You'll get new people come into the game, and, they'll get a good couple of jobs, but then they don't get a job for a while. And as long as you stay there and keep in people's ear, then you're gonna keep working as a photographer.
Yeah, it's almost like not having a safety net. As in you didn't want to go back to landscaping, so there was no if I get a few no's, then I'll just go back to landscaping. I feel like for some people, maybe in a similar situation to you, they may have that background in whatever they're doing before, and they may be still leaning on it. But it seems like you were like, nah, that's not what I'm going back to. I'm all in on this.
There was definitely no option B. Yeah, it was, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to make a living from it. And sure, it might not be what people would see as making a living. I remember the first couple of years, it was like, I remember doing a tax return for photography, and it was like $2,000 of earnings, and I'm like, wow. All right, what am I going to do here? But then it slowly built, and I'm like, shit, I made 10 grand this year off photography. I'm like the happiest guy alive, because I know how much work I've put into that, and I'm finally seeing the rewards. And however long it is now, I think it's 15 years since I started picking up a camera and trying to make an income from it, yeah, it's definitely well and truly on the other side now. So, but I still pinch myself that, I can go out and do these incredible adventures and earn an income on that time while I'm out there. It's not always, it's definitely ebbs and flows. You hit up companies at the wrong time of year and no one's got spending budget or anything like that. And, so you got to make do. You're not going to not go out on an adventure though, just because they're not going to pay. I'm like, all right, well, I've got to dip into the savings and I'm going to go have a hell time. But, it can be tricky at times. Yeah.
Which is really beautiful that you persisted and created that lifestyle for yourself, because I see it with so many people where they are in that, for your example, in that like default of landscaping, and they gave whatever they wanted a shot, it didn't work. So they go back to it and they still have their adventures on the weekend, but they can't enjoy them as much because in the back of their mind, they're like, oh, it's Sunday morning now. I need to drive home, unpack, and I got Monday tomorrow, which means I'm back at a job that I hate doing. And for you, it was, no, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to create the lifestyle that I want to live so that when I'm on these adventures, I can truly be in the moment, truly take everything that this adventure is worth and be happy doing it.
Yeah, and that was the challenge is making it work to get out there and explore and to reward myself in those adventures. It's just been such a journey that I definitely consider myself fortunate to make that happen because of the hard work that was put in. There's not a day goes by where I don't consider myself lucky to be where I am. And, I also have the balance of commercial corporate photography, which is great because I'm really trying to push that at the same time as I push my adventures. So sometimes one suffers when the other one flourishes because of the energy I'm putting into one or the other. For example, like the last probably year coming out of COVID, I really put energy into the corporate commercial side of things. And in doing so, my adventures has definitely, been put on the back burner. But, got to kind of see where the market is and see what's going on. And if there is an opportunity to do an adventure and get supported while you're doing it, then I'm like, see you later commercial gigs. Like I'm there. So like on Sunday, I take off for 2 months and I've got a boat. First time I've ever had a boat for myself.
I saw you put that up. That's so cool.
Yeah, so I've been, very fortunate in that I reached out to a whole other industry separate to what I've always been in, that four-wheel drive hiking adventure side, and reached out to this other industry and they were interested and came back and said like, yeah, let's work something out. And a year later, so it was still a year in the from the first email to boat delivery, but yeah, we've got a boat and decked it out and I've teamed up with some incredible companies. And yeah, I've just gone, all right, let's see where I can take this. It's time to explore off the coast now, get out of the land desert and get to the sea desert. And
That's so cool.
Yeah, see where we can go. So 2 months on the road as of Sunday.
Wow.
All right.
So like, have you taken time to think about that moment? Like you're about to set off on a 2-month adventure with your boat, your car, and you said like 15 years ago, you were just starting out on the photography film adventure. And you said before, like you still have those pinch me moments, but how good does it feel to know that you've built this for yourself?
Oh mate, I look at the troopy every day. I'm like, how have I afforded you just with photography? Like it's not, something I never would have dreamed of, or just to be able to, go out to dinner or, just to afford to pay rent. It's a good feeling. But, and then with the boat and this trip, unfortunately, it's just been so flat out. It's like when you're prepping for a trip overseas. You've got your ticket, but you're flat stick until you leave. And then once you're finally on the plane, you're like, oh shit, this is happening. Do I have everything? Like, am I actually ready for this? And that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Is it's just been like commercial gigs and like prepping the boat and getting the car ready and looking at maps and working out camp spots and how to get to different areas on the map and how much fuel will I need and getting some fishing spots off mates. And yeah, I don't think it's really going to sink in until I'm hitching up the boat and heading north.
That's so awesome. And like your troopy as well is just one of the coolest troopies out there. I remember I first saw it on like Ronnie Dahl's modified series, and like that's where I think that might have been the first time I actually was introduced to you and saw you, and then from there just followed along your journey. But for you, what was it like to get the troopy? Because you was it from the Navara to the troopy?
Straight from the Navara to the troopy, yeah. So I had the Navara for 4 years, and then from there, just basically slowly saved up, and my dad helped me with the deposit, getting finance for the troopy. So I think as of like next week, I've finally paid it off.
Nice.
The 5-year loan. So yeah, it's been a journey in itself, but that Navara to the troopy, I still miss the Navara, but yeah, troopy's just a whole nother weapon. But then again, it felt good getting that troopy early on. But I look around now and just the setups and the money people must have. I went into a Auto Sparky joint the other day that I go to in Perth, and there's a troopy there that hasn't even seen dirt roads yet, and it has got everything done to it. And the guy was saying that it'll be up around the $300,000 mark.
Oh.
Yeah, so my troopy's like way down the line in terms of what's going around now. But hey, it's everything I need, and it does everything I want. And now, look, if it can tow a boat, even better. So it's I'm very thankful of how it's all kind of played out, and the decision to get the troopy, and the whole troopy family kind of thing, and it's the perfect car for me.
For sure. I think it's really added to the marketing of like your brand as well. Everyone sort of just associates you, the troopy, and what your dog's name is. It Morrison?
Morrison, yeah, and I got another young one, Buckley.
Buckley, yeah.
Buckley.
Like I feel like that's sort of the brand you've created around yourself, and the troopy is a staple in that. For you, when you look at the career and milestones and big achievements, do you sort of place it on the materialistic things like getting the troopy, or is it more experience based of like doing this hike or being able to work with this company?
It's kind of a mixture of all of the above. Generally, my greatest achievements are like the physical, mental, trips I've done by foot or by kayak, or but getting the troopy is, I see that as the tool to get me to some of these locations as well. So it's definitely a beautiful thing and a milestone in a way, because it means I can elevate these adventures and these missions and go so much further into the wild, to where I can then park up and go from there and start exploring. So it definitely helps. And same with the boat. I see the boat as a huge opportunity for me to explore places I've never dreamed of. Islands I can get to and camp on with the dog, and go fish and forage off these islands, or get up the Kimberley and just go super, super remote and get to places where roads don't take you, or where it's too dangerous to kayak. So that's, there's milestones for me, definitely, what I've done here and mentally, but But all these things definitely, it's all blended together to make it work.
Yeah, it's like you've almost like leveled up. Like you've gone from like the roads and the rivers and the kayaks to just being like, no, I'm taking it to the next level where the car can't take me, which is awesome. Where do you think would be, like obviously you would probably say WA if I asked you, but excluding WA, where would be probably your most, I guess, favorite state to take adventures or travel and journey in?
South Oz is awesome. It is very like WA though.
Yeah.
So if I was to, peel out of WA, I'd be looking for something very different. And I still haven't really played around in Queensland too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tassie.
I was going to say, if I had to have a guess, I think you'd say Tassie. Yeah.
Yeah, just because, the oceans down there are so wild. You're hanging off the bottom of the continent. There's awesome fishing, diving, great fall driving, incredible hikes. There's, places to kayak and to surf. And it's just a big adventure island in my eyes. And, why wouldn't you be? And, they get snow. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, my mate and I drove over and I think it was tail end of winter. And we drove over and we camped down by some river for a couple of days and it was bloody cold and we weren't ready for it. So we had to, go to a salvos and like try and layer up and got down there. And then we're like, all right, let's go have a look up on this hill today. So we started meandering our way up this kind of S-bend road. And I was like, oh, a bit of cloud coming in. It must be rain coming in. So anyway, kept on driving up and rain turned into like, almost like hail. And we're on the two ways going, oh, is that hail? Shit, it's hailing now. What the hell? Like, it's sunny down the bottom of the hill. What's going on?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like, mate, I think that's snow. And like we both just ripped over the side of the road and jumped out and we're like, oh my God, this is so sick. I never thought my car would see snow. And like, we're in WA like a week ago and it just felt weird to go, WA to South Oz and just through all the deserts and next minute you're driving up a hill going through snow. And we were so stoked that like the cops were turning people around and we convinced them that we had accommodation up there, but we didn't.
Accommodation in the car.
In the car. Yeah.
So we got up there and then we went to a servo just to like, we were asking about this campground just around the corner and we asked the lady and she's like, where are you boys staying? What are you doing up here? And we're like, oh, we're camping. She's like, what? Tonight? No, you're stupid. And we're like, no, we're going to camp. And she's like, you're crazy. You know what's coming in? And I was like, yeah, a bit of snow and cloud, hey? And she's like, oh, it's going to be bucketing down. She goes, I'm getting off this hill soon. I was like, all right. And she goes, but what I'll do, I'll leave the front door open for you of the servo. So if you do get too cold, you can come in and sleep on the floor. And so anyway, we're like, we're not going to get cold. And we drove down and she goes, just push open the gate for the campsite. It's just dummy locked, like no one's there anyway. So we had this little campsite to ourselves. And then, we're trying to light a fire for the next 3 hours, trying to get wood before the snow got to it too much. And we're like, oh, this is useless. My mate was pouring petrol on the fire, just trying to get any kind of spark, try and get warm. And anyway, just snowed and snowed and snowed. We finally went to bed. I had a rooftop tent and he had the swag on the ground. I said to him, I was like, mate, it's probably going to get really bloody cold. Like, you're welcome to get up in the rooftop tent because I'd rather you be alive tomorrow than, worry about you being near me while I sleep. And anyway, woke up in the morning and I looked out the top of the tent. It was a really cold morning. Like, I had a Cedar Summit sleeping bag and it was like rated to -7. I was freezing my ass off the whole night.
Wow.
And then I went downstairs, like climbed down and couldn't even see my mate's swag. So there was this much snow on my bonnet, right? And I was like, oh my God. And I'm sitting out the front going, oh, look at all this snow. This is so sick. And then I was like, shit, where's Windsor? And I'm like looking around and then I could see this mound that was covering his swag. I'm like, Windsor. And it's just silent. I'm like, Windsor. Silent. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, all right. So I'm like scraping away the snow and like rattling his thing, and then the zips were frozen together. And so I had to pour water on the zips to open up the zip. And he's in there like this. I'm like, bro, you all right? Yeah, talk to me. And anyway, he was like, that was the worst night of my life. Like, that was the worst night of my life. And he's like, I'm never doing that again. I was like, yeah, all right. Got him out of there. I'm like, what sleeping bag have you got? I had a look. It was rated to +4 degrees. I'm like, mate. And so he's in every layer possible. And
my goodness.
And like he said he didn't get a wink of sleep the whole night. Anyway, we got off the hill, and before we got off the hill, we had a look at our phones to check the temperature. And I think it was -6.
Oh.
But with a feels like we're on the top of it's like the Arthur's Pass or Arthur's Lakes or something in Tassie.
Yeah.
And with them feels like -16 because of the wind chill and the amount of snow and everything.
Yeah.
And he's in a +4 sleeping bag.
That's why you're cold, mate.
Wow.
Even if you have like, even in like the limited
Oh my
like
goodness.
snow camping that I've done, it's literally been once. Like I don't even know what my sleeping bag's rated to, but I think it's either 0 or below. And like we're in like a wooden hut in Kosciuszko, and it was still like freezing cold. So imagine him, like it's basically doesn't even do anything.
He had 3 pairs of pants on, 2 pairs of socks, shoes. I think he had like 3 T-shirts, a jumper and a jacket and a beanie, and he was just shaking like a leaf. Hey, it was. He was like, I'm never doing that again. Somehow told him like how cool it was, and like, you know, how cool is this experience. And by 5 p.m. that day, I convinced him to do it again at a different spot.
And he was in the swag?
Yeah, did you stay on the swag or the rooftop?
Yeah.
Oh
No
my
way.
gosh. He's a maniac.
Yeah, so I don't know. He was like, oh no, you're right. It is pretty cool up here. Like, yeah. And we got the drones out and took photos of the snow in the morning, and you know, you can't even see the cars. All you can see are just footprints walking through this kind of snow wonderland. So
Yeah, those are often the times when the best adventures are had, when there is like that lack of preparation and education. But at the same time, those are also the moments where it is like a knife's edge, where it can turn from a great laugh and a funny story to, oh crap, like this is like life-threatening or anything like that. Have you like towed that line much, and have you had any kind of more serious adventures where things have gone wrong and you've really had to learn from those?
I've had moments where things have gone, have been really, really close to going really wrong. And, you know, I love it. And I'm so focused in those moments, but it's scary. Like, you know, you don't know how it's going to play out. You know, we did a hike, myself and Morrison did a hike down the south coast of WA, and, you know, seeing this beach on this map, and just didn't know if you could get to it, and didn't know what the tides meant in terms of, you know, obviously you can read the tides and the swell and all that kind of stuff, but you don't know how it's going to reflect on an area until you've been there. Does that beach disappear? Does the tide completely take it over? If the swell's this certain size, does those waves break over that beach completely, and, you know, there's no hope of camping there? And so we did one hike, and it took us 7 hours to get to this spot. And the whole time, you know, we went there on high tide, and I thought would have been fine. And it was the worst decision, because the whole time I'm walking in waist to chest deep water with a massive backpack.
Swimming.
Fuck. Yeah, you ain't walking.
You're not walking at that point.
Yeah, you're swimming.
You're swimming.
Half of it was swimming, but then, like, you know, picture kind of trying to go across a rocky, super jagged, like cliff line for 3Ks, but you can't actually walk across the top of a lot of it because the cliffs down into it were like super steep, like kind of limestone, kind of sheer steep limestone kind of hills. But and taking Maury, I was like, what have I done? Like, I'm going to lose my dog down here because this is just way too hectic and waves are coming in and I've got him on the leeward side of me so he doesn't cop the waves as we're swimming. Grab onto a headland and I'm holding on and like try and lift him up and he's clawing his way up to get up the top. And then I have to try and get my backpack off and get up there as well before the next wave hits and starts to pull you back out. And there was big swells and I just didn't think it would kind of impact us that much. And, it was just hour after hour of this like torture. And I knew if we timed it wrong that there was a very good chance myself and my dog could be pulled out by, as the wave kind of sucks back out, we get pulled off the reef and then you're in deep water and dealing with the swells. I probably would have been all right, but, unfortunately, like, would have been worst case for my dog. So it was tough. We managed to get all the way there and I was just broken. And this journey we took no food, and just a little bit of water. And I wanted to just catch food once we got there and get abalone off the reef and bush tucker and stuff. And I knew there was like, you could get water from the limestone cliffs as the fresh water seeps through. And, that was my plan. But once I finally got there, I was so exhausted. I'm like, how am I going to do anything? Like, how am I going to catch a fish? How am I going to go looking for food when I'm just completely wrecked and have no energy because I haven't eaten all day? And then it became, we got there and casted a line and kept on, flicking lures and finally got a fish and, got 2 little fish and it was like this big and I'm just like the happiest guy alive and chucked it in the little jet boil and cooked it up and I took got some saltbush, like old man saltbush as I was walking down the hills and put that on the fish and, wasn't enough to keep us going, but it was food in the belly for the night. And then as I was cooking, sure enough, this tide kept on coming up and this beach started to disappear. So where I just set up my tent and sleeping bag and everything was getting like lapped on by the waves. So I'm like looking around going, there's no more beach. Like it's just sharp rocky cliffs at like a, 20-degree angle, 30-degree angle. Wow. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I don't have the energy to walk back and it's dark now. And so, we ended up ditching the tent because I couldn't set it up anywhere and just got the inflatable mat out. And, Murray just laid between my legs and I slept on this angle like this the whole night, probably got 2 hours sleep. And I woke up.
That's insane.
Woke up and it was incredible. It's all when you wake up at sunrise, you go, this is all worth it. This is magic. But then the whole process of now I've got to get the hell out of here kind of creeps in. I've got no food. Like the tide was out. So, I just wanted to get out. I didn't want to try and get food or anything like that. But then luckily enough, it turns out low tide was the best time to go there. So we were actually able to dodge all the waves. Maury was able to walk the whole way along this coast at low tide and we didn't have to, succumb to the big cliffs and the hike through the, or jumping into the waterholes anymore. So, there's times like that and a big hike in Iceland where, it was over glaciers and over volcanoes and stuff. It's a popular hike, but by the time I got there, it just closed for winter. And I'd never really done any hiking. So I was so pumped. And I think it was like 38 Ks over all these glaciers and stuff, these big hills. And I didn't have any real gear. A mate in Iceland gave me something. I bought like a backpack and boots in London. And then I pretty much had to try and work out the rest when I got to Iceland. And he was like, oh man, if you go down to the campground, people that are flying out of Iceland, like just chuck all their stuff in one area and whoever wants it can take it. So I got down there and found a tent and I found, find some, just like random bits and pieces that I needed, but I didn't have. And so, off I went, hitchhiked out to the other side of Iceland and about 6 different cars eventually got me out there, and camped there the night at the start under this big waterfall, Skogafoss. And woke up in the morning and was like, all right, now where do I go? And I didn't know. I was Googling before I went to Iceland. I was like, is there polar bears in Iceland? Do I need to be afraid of bears? I wasn't sure. There was sightings and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if this is bullshit or not. So I was like so out of my league. Anyway, started hiking and didn't have any contact with anyone. No one knew where I was. So then I was a little bit worried about if something happens, no one's even going to know where to look for me. So I wrote a note to a girl at the restaurant near where I camped and just said, hey, if you don't hear from me in a couple of days, you might want to send out a search party. And she was like, what? Who are you? What do you mean? I'm like, just, if I don't call in a couple of days, just send someone else. But there was a moment anyway where I had to cross a glacier, and like I said, the track was closed, so I was the only one on this whole track. And so when the track's open, there's options to stay in huts along the way. You do 15 Ks and stay in a hut or whatever. And so I didn't have that option, and so I was like, well, maybe I can just do this whole track in one day. So then no one has to worry about me, and I just mission it. I had one little packet of trail mix and a little packet of wraps and some peanut butter. I was like, all right, this will get me through the day, and I'll just get water from the glaciers. Anyway, there was one point, incredible journey, incredible adventure, and I'd love to go back to Iceland and explore more. But this one point, I was walking across the glacier, and I've got this stupidly heavy backpack on, and I stepped on a slippery part, and now I know that the walking across glaciers, you need the crampons. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, the spikes.
Yeah. Definitely didn't have those. There wasn't. No one left those at the at the caravan park. So anyway, walking along, and I slipped, and I didn't have any ice axe or anything like that, and I started sliding. And right before I slipped, I saw this just black hole, this abyss, about 10 meters to the left of me, like down the slope. And I was like, well, this is where all the water's running, down here. And if I was ever to fall, I'm going to end up under the glacier somewhere. And I slipped, and I'm just like, gloves off, like straight away, and just trying to dig my fingers in as I'm sliding, knowing what's right behind me. And finally I got some grip and stopped, and then kind of like moved myself to the side where the water wasn't running, and like got back up and just going, shit, like that could have been it. And there was a couple of moments like that on that hike that things could have gone really bad real quick.
Wow.
But it was like one of the best hikes ever, and I'd do it all again. And I guess that's why people do these adventures, is there's always a risk involved, and there's a beauty in it, but for where you are and what you're doing, it's always worth it.
For sure. Off the back of that, where's a country you think you haven't been to, which you'd love to go and sort of create some adventure in?
I'd love to go like Norway and all those kind of islands. I'd love to go just jump on a fishing boat off there and just go see what life is like for people living in these tiny little towns, dwarfed by these massive mountains that just go straight into the ocean, the freezing cold ocean. Like, I think exploring there, hiking there, forward driving, just cruising around would be pretty special.
With your video background and your desire to educate the world about cultures and history and land, do you think you would ever sort of move into a strong storytelling side of creation where you might fly somewhere and, as you said, you go to Norway and you speak to the local fishermen and tell their story to help educate the world and yourself?
Definitely. I've thought about it. There's definitely something there that I'd like to be part of and to create something around that. But it's once again, it's working out how to make that work. Where do you start? Who do you hit up? who do you get to support it? But yeah, no, I'd love to do that, to kind of be this, I don't know, try and tell those stories that just aren't told, and a lot more on the low key kind of side of things, but people just living in, humans living in crazy locations, and it's just the norm to them. I think that's pretty special, kind of living in the extremes. I'm sure there's probably already 20 TV shows about that kind of stuff, but I don't really watch TV, so maybe I should do some research.
Yeah, it is such a cool way to kind of go about, and I think you learn the most from those people that are living those extreme lives, like people that are sort of in the middle, living quite mundane lives. You can obviously learn a lot from anyone, but you're going to learn so much more about people, about life, about the environment when you're in either extreme.
Yeah, I mean, immersing yourself in any kind of culture or landscape for a certain amount of time is going to be very, very beneficial for you, for the people you're with, for the people on the other side that are seeing you as a stranger coming in. Like, you got to build that trust. It's kind of even like being out in the bush. I find, I don't know, there's definitely some kind of spiritual level to being out in some landscapes where you almost need to go there with the right intentions, with the right attitude, and convince where you are that you're there for the right reasons. I've definitely felt areas where there's no one around whatsoever. But I've definitely felt like really, really strong energies where you're not welcome. And it's so odd, but there's got to be something to it. Something happened there in the past, or, I don't really believe in ghosts or anything, but spirits, I think, is a whole different realm. There's enough people that have roamed this planet over tens of thousands of years that there's got to be some kind of energy floating around, good and bad, in different places. And, I've definitely come across that in the bush. And, there's been 2 occasions where I've driven for 6 hours after that. I was about to set up camp, and I was like, everything felt so off. I was like, I got to get out of here. And another one where same thing, I was sitting there with Maury, my dog, under this kind of beautiful, I guess almost like a pillar of old iron rock. And we were sitting there and rocked up at night. No tracks, going in there. We kind of made our own tracks, and it felt really wrong. But I was like, just sat there. I was like, I'm here for the right reasons. I'm just passing by, kind of thing. I'm only here for the night, and I'll be gone in the morning. Still had a pretty rough sleep, but I really didn't want to leave that spot. Even though there was, something telling me maybe you should otherwise.
What do you think the difference is between the 2 times? Like the one time that you actually went, like you got the off feeling, but one time you got the hell out of there, and the other time you went, no, like I'm here for the right. Like, is it the reasoning?
The first time was actually with Essa, with my partner.
Okay.
And we didn't say a thing to each other. We both hopped out of the car and both felt it the moment we hopped out of the car. And we walked around the back of the car, and I was like, umming and ahhing in my head, but I was like, we've had a big day. Like, I was like, no, we can just camp here, in my head, not saying a thing. And so I started opening up the back of the car and getting things out. And I looked at her and I was like, should we just go camp somewhere else? And she's like, absolutely. Like, yeah, let's do it. And then we got in the car, and she's like, get me the fuck out of here. And I was like, how weird does this place feel? And we raced off. And then, we just talked. We talked for hours about that feeling was so strong. I don't even know what to compare it to, but we both felt it, and we didn't communicate it until I said, should we just go somewhere else?
Yeah, because some people get that with other people. Like you hear stories of, like, I know there's this one story about, like, you guys know who Ted Bundy is, that like famous serial killer or whatnot. like there was some guy, it was his mum's friend or something. She went on a date with him and like was like completely thrown off by the guy, just the way he looked at her, and like went and called, like her brother was like, come and pick me up. I need to get out of here. Like I couldn't even tell you why. I just need to leave. And like left. And then obviously, you know, when he got convicted or whatever, she's like, that's the guy. Like that's the guy I was on the date with. So she could have been a victim, which is crazy. But that's interesting because like you hear that sort of vibe with people or whatnot, but you had it with a place, which I feel like would be more consuming, because if it's a person, you can just get away from them. But if it's a place, it's like, I'm almost consumed. I'm like, I'm in the place and it's nature and I can't do anything about it. Almost.
And there's more of an understanding with a person. Like we can relate to people so much more than nature on that level, where it's like, I don't like your vibe, but nature, it's like, what is it about
it's someone's
this
certain
place? Like it can't communicate with me in English the same way this person could.
Yeah.
So that would have been a whole different vibe. And then, as you said, that sort of I don't even want to call it irrational, but the irrational voice in your mind saying, you know, we've just driven for 6 hours. Like it's been a big day. We should just set up here. Like it's fine. It's just a feeling. But for it to be so strong
that you actually
and you both have that feeling is wild.
Yeah, I definitely haven't been back there to test it out.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. I'm on that. I'm really keen to talk about relationships and your partner Esther and how you going on these trips, obviously like she goes on a lot of them with you, but how you guys sort of navigate that time away from each other, and if you feel that it's necessary for the relationship.
I don't know if it's necessary for the relationship, but then again, I don't know, maybe it is, because I always need to go explore and you know, it's part of my work and it's part of my passion, and you know, I've got this drive to get out and go remote. So maybe if I didn't do that, then maybe who knows how our relationship would change because of that. You know, it's like as a surfer, like over summer, you know, if you're in a spot where it doesn't get any swell, you can just turn into like just the most boring, like tired, mundane person and just negative, and you're like, because you're not getting your fix of whatever that is. And, you know, getting those endorphins going while you're surfing and that physical kind of exercise as well. And I guess it's kind of similar with these adventures is I do need to spend a certain amount of time each year out bush by myself, but then I'd love to drag, you know, Essa. She's always willing to come if she can get time off work or if we just, you know, pin it out for the weekend. But yeah, I mean, you know, when I'm always out, and if I go away for like, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, there's definitely, when I come back, there's definitely this buffer that needs to happen, because, you know, she's gotten used to just getting in her zone and making things work back home. And I've been out bush on this amazing adventure. So it's definitely like a day and a half I find each time where it's like, you know, we're almost strangers again. And then it kind of, and then the reconnection and we're back and we're solid. But yeah, I think, you know, we love to explore together. We work together so well. She loves camping. She loves exploring. And we both find this freedom and this beauty in isolation out there. But, you know, for her, it never happens enough. And for me, you know, there's plenty. So there's definitely, I'm sure there's some underlying, like, you know, envy of like, like, I just, you know, I wish I could be out there, or like, you know, why is he going out this time? He doesn't even need to, or he doesn't have any sponsors that he needs to shoot stuff for. Why is he going out? You know, but for me, it's like, I just need to go. Like, I need a reset, a refresh, and kind of other people do that in the forms of overseas holidays or a cruise or whatever it is, or a big night out and they blow off steam, you know, like, but no, we've spent a lot of time camping together, and it definitely works.
Yeah. What's the longest time you've spent apart? like on your adventures, I guess?
Yeah, definitely be on my adventures. Probably only a month. Yeah, I think a month would probably be the longest. On this trip coming up, I go up for 2 weeks and she's managed to get 2 weeks off work. So she'll fly up for 2 weeks and join me.
Cool.
And then I've got another month after that. So, this would be the longest if she wasn't coming up at all.
She
But
wasn't. Yeah.
and I'm excited to have her up there, and she's so pumped to get up into that, northern sun and
Yeah.
get the tan on.
Yeah.
And
You go.
sorry, I was going to say it creates a really interesting dynamic to your trips where you have 2 months coming up, but it's really nicely broken up where it's 2 weeks like getting there by yourself, enjoying that, 2 weeks with your partner, and then it's like now I have a month by myself. So rather than just like, man, I got 2 months by myself, this is it, you almost get these like little chapters within the book to look forward to.
100%, mate. Yeah. Like we, I think it's 2 years ago now, we hiked the Bibbulmun track, which is
I love that video that you
Yeah.
did. All the parts. It's so good. That was beautiful.
so it's, for anyone that's not aware of it, it's a 1,000-kilometre hike from Perth down to Albany in the southwest. We're in the south of the state, but it meanders its way, through every valley, over every hill, different parts of the forest, vegetation from, savanna to big tingle forest, old growth forest down to the beach and everything. So it's an incredible hike. It's challenging. It's tough mentally and physically. But Esther and I hiked that together over 52 days. And before that hike, we both downloaded hundreds of hours of, Spotify music and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. We did the whole hike, didn't listen to anything. One podcast,
Whoa.
nothing. We were just,
Wow.
somehow we just chatted the whole way. And we're like, how have we got this much chat? Like, we don't have this, we don't have this much when we're at home. Like, it's,
Yeah.
there was, I don't know,
Wow.
we tapped into something else because it was just left foot, right foot, camp, wake up, sunrise, start again. It was,
That's beautiful.
it
That
was,
is
it was,
awesome.
it was kind of cool. We neither of us saw it coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, because you downloaded like hundreds of thousands of hours and then just to play nothing. That's so awesome. I feel like it's almost like you're in, and I get it with like if I hike with others or camp with others, it's almost like when you're walking along, like your expectations of like, or what's okay in conversation and I guess like what's weird and what's not just goes out the window over time. So you just get more and more curious, more and more silly. So it just breeds more conversation.
100%. Yeah. All the barriers have dropped, and guards are down, and you're just talking shit. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. It's kind of like a podcast where you're just chatting about anything and everything, and you never know where it's going to go, and then you kind of go down that rabbit hole, and then 2 hours later you're like, whoa, what were we even just chatting about? Like, where have we gone with
Yeah,
this? And then we're like, oh, we've done 20 Ks, sweet. Like, let's pull up and have a coffee. Like, it's it's. S is awesome to travel with, and she's a great adventure buddy, and always up for the challenge of whatever we kind of work on together.
And there's such a synchronicity that occurs when doing those trips with someone, because like you wake up at the same time, you pack your tent up at the same time, you cook and eat breakfast together, you walk together, like everything is done together, so that the sync and the conversation flow is there. And I experience that all the time with my friends, where when I'm hiking days on end and you'll just both have the same random thought at the same time, and it's a memory from like 4 or 5 years ago, and it's like, how is this even possible that we just came to this conclusion and here we are talking about this thing? And it's so beautiful. And I think for me it really shows the power in human connection, and how much deeper it can be when you are actually connecting with someone. And I think in the modern world and the day-to-day living, so much of that is lost. But when you're out there really truly living together, it's a beautiful thing.
You're definitely on the you can find yourself on the right wavelength, or the same wavelength, so to speak. And it, when there's no distraction and no phone and everything like that, and it is just the two of you, and, you know, we've all got energy, for lack of a better word, that like, that surrounds us, or you put out, or you allow in, that it has to connect at times in its, you know, kind of deepest level. So, because we were just surrounded by nature and no one around us for days, then we're right there on the same wavelength, thinking the same things, seeing the same things.
I think it's also beautiful when it's like your energies, you become one unit. And I can imagine you guys would over 52 days, but like if one person's down or they're tired or whatever, it's like it's up to the other person to pull them up. And the reverse, when you're tired, it's up to the other person to pull you up, because you're walking together, you're eating together, like Josh mentioned. So it's like you need to counteract what each other are feeling, which I think is quite cool as well. It's like a little dance across the whole hike where there could be different points that someone finds like a struggle, or they're thinking about something else at home or whatnot, but like the other person brings them back to an equilibrium.
Yeah, spot on. And, you know, you hope that happens throughout life, you know, off the track and on the track, at home, wherever, at work, with your partner, with your mates, like, you know, but it's all too easy to be distracted and push away that opportunity. You know, it's
That's a good point.
It's
a very good point.
It's not easy to it's actually really hard to, like, you know, for you and your partner or you and your mate to not touch your phones while you're catching up at all, or, you know, leave it in another room. There's always a temptation to, for whatever reason, see what's going on in the world instead of what's going on in their world.
Definitely. We I mentioned to you earlier, but we sometimes do this little thing where it's like explain that Graham. We stole it off a YouTube show, Hot Ones, where they eat hot wings whilst getting interviewed. So we went onto your Instagram and grabbed some photos, which we'll see if we can show you on the camera. Basically, you can either say one word about it, or you can give us the full story or an emotion, whatever you want to do with it. But yeah, this is...
We'll go backwards because the first one,
we
won't hit that first.
We'll see if you can see that.
Yep. That is me absolutely exhausted, trying to pull out a bit of a smile. I think it was early days on the Bibbleman. You know, the first week is by far the hardest, because no matter what training you've done, you're just not quite ready for it. You need that first week to build up some conditioning. And so, yeah, that was first week somewhere, I think, and just going, shit, like, I'm so wrecked. Like, what are we doing? But I was so stoked at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very much the idea of, like, you walk yourself fit. Like, the training isn't the training. It's like the walk is the training. And
that's the second one.
Second one, I think, just...
You got me nervous. You got me nervous about what I've got on my gram.
I did a very deep dive.
Yeah.
There is an extensive gallery there. But yeah, this second shot, I think it's a very beautiful photo.
That's an old one. Maury even looks young there. No grey, very few grey hairs around the eyes. That one is our little kind of secret camp spot up on the Murchison, from memory, and incredible spot. No one around, got the river flowing below us, and, you know, even though it's 7 hours drive, sometimes we go up there for the weekend just to have that connection with the landscape.
All right.
And you said, like, it being your secret place, there must not a sense of ownership, but a real sense of, like, you're welcomed there, and it is like, yeah, this is kind of our place in a way.
Yeah, 100%.
This is an interesting one.
Not me. I think this is one of the only photos I've ever posted that's not mine, but that just blows my mind. Like, that connection, whether it's a beautiful connection or whether it's a food and prey connection going on there, is insane. It just shows how insignificant and how small we really are. On the in the scheme of things.
Yeah, because I really liked your caption around that. It was something around the beauty in like interaction and the admiration both man and wildlife can have for each other. And yeah, it's just this guy swimming with a shark. It's insane.
It's crazy.
Just face to face with a great white. Like there's a deep fear that I think is within a lot of people there, and so for that to happen, it's that's insane. Thanks for showing me that again. That's wild.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that some of the photos would jot your memory.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I haven't looked at this in ages. And
Yeah.
I remember that time. I actually had that thought when I looked at this photo.
Oh, yeah, that one was with, because I didn't have a guitar. That was my mate's guitar. Josh Garner is a bodyboarder and a musician, but he hit me up. We're in Perth. He hit me up and he goes, mate, there's a really good swell hitting South Oz tomorrow night, I think it was, or the next day. He's like, do you want to come with me and like photograph it? So we got in the car and I was like, well, why not? Let's do it. So we got in the car and drove from Perth almost to Adelaide to this spot where this swell was hitting.
Shit.
Big spot, big surf spot.
That's a big drive.
Yeah. Oh, it was mental. Yeah, I think it was 35 hours or something around there to get there. Swam out the next morning. He's paddled out and surfed. I had to swim through a seal colony to get out to this spot to take photos.
Whoa.
Couldn't even see my flippers. Like I was just like,
Wow.
what else is under here? And you're half a K offshore, maybe a bit more.
Waiting for a big old sharky.
Waiting for old mate there, yeah, holding the shark.
Yeah.
So we drove there, surfed that morning, hang around till midday, and then started to drive home. And
That's some serious stamina required to get that done.
Done.
oh my gosh, yeah, I haven't done it since, but that would have been, I think we camped on the side of the road just there, so that would have been coming on sunset. We're like, let's grab a bottle of wine and talk some shit and hang out. And yeah, he took a photo.
That's sick.
Awesome.
And
This one,
the last one, I think it is.
yeah, I've been hoping for you to get through that description of that last one because I've got this next one loaded up and I keep staring down at it and I'm just trying to get through it.
Oh mate, so that is that's that second night of camping I convinced my mate to do.
Oh, no way. Oh,
That's how you convinced him to
Yeah,
get.
yeah. You got the clothes off and he went, oh, okay,
Yeah,
I'll hang around.
mate, I need you to take a photo of me, bro. You need to stay up here again. No, so that was the morning after the second night, and I was like, I'm gonna jump in there naked. I just want to
Nice.
see how cold this is, and had a coffee, and then I was like, all right, you got the camera ready? I'm like, let me check the settings. Yeah, so he's standing there freezing his ass off, and he's like, you're fucking mad, and I'm like, taking off my clothes and I'm holding a towel ready. I'm like, are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? And he had a drone hovering as well. So I'm like, mate, you better be ready because I'm only doing this once. I was so nervous, but yeah, jumped in and it was awesome. But it was one of those full take your breath away kind of moments, and I'd love to go back there and kind of swim in those rivers and look for stuff to eat and in the warmer months. That'd be pretty special.
Yeah, no, it looks beautiful there.
Yeah.
And the lake looks good too.
Yeah, but the thing I love doing, like the reason I love doing that is, especially for people that adventure, is like the truth of it is it's always the story behind the photo. It's very rare that someone will actually just like say, oh, that was the mountain and that's me butt naked and that's the freezing cold river. It's always the story behind what it took to get that photo and what it took to get to that place. And that's what I really want to put the emphasis on, is how it's not about the photo, it's not about the moment, but it's about going out and creating and living that adventure, which you do very, very well. And also your photos reflect that really well.
And we got a little glimpse of that with your Tassie story. Like you've literally given us the moment leading to like one of those photos, which is just like substantially better consumption than just looking at the photo. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, my mate almost died the night before.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to touch on?
Not really. I think you guys have kind of painted a pretty cool picture, and you know, it's nice for me to sit and reflect as well around your questions and kind of, you know, I guess like back to square one, pinch myself about the road and you know, how tough it has been, but how incredible and fortunate I am to have, you know, paved this road for myself and continue to kind of make it work. But yeah, for me, it's just trying to keep this pushing and see where I can go in the next 2 months, and really come back with a whole lot of inspiring content for people to watch and hopefully kind of feed off and start their own journey wherever that may be.
I think that's so awesome, and I can't wait to see and hear about the trip.
Oh yeah.
We wrap up every podcast with a challenge. So basically we want the challenge to come from you. It could be absolutely anything. And we will aim to complete the challenge during the week that the podcast is released.
This is for you boys.
Yeah.
For us,
yeah.
if you want to partake in it as well, feel welcome, any of the listeners. But yeah, we want it to come from you.
A challenge for you to do the week. When's the podcast coming out roughly from here?
It'll be probably May, sometime in May.
It'll probably be like just after mid-May.
Yeah.
Do you guys live by the coast, or you?
Yeah,
Northern
right,
beaches.
right on the beach.
I want you guys to do 5 days of sunrise hiking, if it works with your work. So 5 days of sunrise hiking along a different beach. Each time we could do the same beach, but like with like 15 kilos on your back. And I wanted to see how you feel. Like only do 5Ks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say beach, as in, are we walking on sand or are we in the water?
Yeah. I want you swimming around headlands.
Yeah, go to 5 beaches, not 5Ks. Yeah.
No, I just want to see where you guys, I think it would be a cool week, like to force yourself to do Monday to Friday or, you know, Wednesday to Sunday or whatever. Each sunrise, get up and hike 5Ks with 15 kilos on the back.
No, that's sick.
And see if it leads you to go, shit, I got this. Like, where can I plan a hike?
For sure, yeah, and that's a fantastic challenge for us because we live on the northern beaches. Like it's insane what we have around us.
So many beaches here.
Yeah, so it's a perfect challenge for us. I love that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I think it really ties into you and your personality, where it does have that adventure within it, and we will be creating our own adventures with whatever beaches we go to and whatever we come across on the walks.
Most definitely.
And there is that physical challenge to it and the mental challenge of forcing yourself to do something physical for 5 days. So yeah, I actually really can't wait for that.
Yeah,
challenge.
that's great.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, the only catch is you got to do it in Budgie Smugglers.
Done.
Easy. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got matching as well. We're on. We're switched on to that already.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't want to deter from the mission. So no.
Maybe that's how we get Budgie to sponsor us though.
Yeah. Maybe that is a good idea. We can get
Yeah.
Budgie Smugglers on board.
But yeah, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Like, again, I think everything, there's always this like this line of like, don't meet your heroes. But I think everything you've always put up has always been really genuine and really raw. And coming into this, like, you are exactly how you portray yourself online, which I think is super. I'm very like, I admire that a lot,
very
respect
admirable.
that a lot. So yeah, thank you for being the person you are.
No, thank you, boys. That's very kind. I hope to keep that train kind of rolling, and hopefully got some awesome content for you guys to watch while I'm up north.
100%. So keen.
Looking forward to it.
So keen.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Like, it has it's been an absolute honor to be able to speak with you. And yeah, just thank you so much for your time.
Awesome, boys. No, I really appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to this challenge.
Yeah, thank you for that too.
Yeah, there will be video proof that
We will.
that I completed and he failed.
Oh, no, that's a lie. I'll be the one knocking on his door like, dude, come on, we got the sunrise, let's go. And I'm going to carry 30 kilos, he'll carry 15. Or he'll carry 0, I'll do his 15.
It's on
for him.
record now.
Yeah, fuck.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Heath.
Thank you, mate.